And I think it's a great thing. People are like, well,
Okay, I think we're good to go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So this week and next are kind of special components of what we're calling our legacy focus for this fall, past, present, and future. And one of the things as we were planning this, we wanted to make sure we had some practical components for our folks to consider what it means to be Christian stewards, to be those who are entrusted with God's gifts and how to put them to use, how we got in the past, how we do in the present, and how we can for the future. So we talked with a couple of folks that we know, actually a couple who are here today. So Dionne Lovestad-Jones is here from the LCMS Foundation. We have a partnership with the foundation in helping us with is a resource for the congregation. So Dionne is available for folks in the congregation. She'll talk more about this probably in just a second here, so I don't want to steal any thunder here. But as a complimentary service for folks from Emmanuel. So the congregation pays a fee to the LCMS Foundation to be able to have that service available for our people. And then Natalie Hyser-Barber is a member of our congregation and is a partner at the Tobin Ramon Barber firm here in town. So they're working together and have tag teamed this presentation in the past. It's not the first time they're doing this one here. So we invited them to come and be able to deliver this over this weekend and next to be a resource for you as you're contemplating this regardless of your stage of life, about thinking about the future, God's gifts that He's entrusted to our care. So if you're joining us online, hopefully you can see all this as well. The screens are shared. Now all seems to be working okay. So having said that, I'm probably going to have to go sit in the back and make sure it continues to work okay. But before we do anything else, I'd like to open with prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you have brought us together today. We thank you for the many gifts you've trusted to us, both those material and those intangible. We pray that you would bless the conversation this morning, guide us by your Spirit, that we might be mindful of these gifts and be good stewards of them as we seek to look forward to the future and how we might continue to use these blessings for those around us. We ask all this, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we hand the mic over to you all. It's very fancy. Yeah.
Good morning. It's good to be back. Many of you got to sit in Bible study with you a few weeks ago, so kind of exciting. So because this is not our first time doing it, I mean, this is perfected for you all, right? No dress rehearsal. Okay. So does this mean I don't get to sit here?
no, you
Okay, that's pretty good. I'm like, I'm not touching that one. So Natalie and I put our heads together a few weeks back just to kind of talk about what does it look like. So many people have questions about estate planning, which is her expertise. But for me, it was something that really brought us to what is it? Why are we here? What are we doing here? What is all these initials that we talk about? And Natalie's going to unwrap some of that for us. Healthcare directives, guardianship, how do we get started? There's so many questions, what do we do? And so we're here to kind of just help people navigate that, to look through what that looks like. Because as Pastor said, no matter what stage of life we're in, it's always a good time to look at some of these resources for us. So why do we need an estate plan? Everyone can answer that question now. Because you got to do it while you're alive, right? You got to plan while you're alive. And I think that's a really good thing to do. And for me, more importantly, is because it's a responsibility that we have as Christians. It's what God has asked us to do, is to take care of the things that we have that aren't really ours, that are really His, entrusted to our care. And it's all about stewardship. And so when we think about stewardship, that one, this is not you, Pastor, and I know you well enough, but I have a little context for this. We think about stewardship, that one stewardship Sunday a year, where the pastor gets really nervous and a little sweaty in the pulpit, and then when he's done, you hear the collective congregational sigh of relief. Well, that is not what we're talking about, right? Because as Christians, we get to live in this part of the country. They're farmers. They understand complete care of the earth and how we bring food to our tables. I mean, let's talk about stewardship, right? So this is the time. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. And so I just think for us, thinking about estate planning is just a small part of what our stewardship role is as Christians. The church encourages people to be stewards of 100% of what God has given us, and only 50% of people, and I don't care what context we're in, Christian, non-Christian, totally secular, old or young, only 50% of people today have wills. That's a statistic that rings true in any setting that I'm in. 70% of those people who have wills or living trusts need to have them updated. They haven't done that in 5 or 10 or 15 or even 20 years. And so it's important. So out of the 50% that do, 70% still have time to need to do that. And only 7 to 12% of the people who even go to an estate planning attorney and work their wills through an attorney have a charity or ministry in mind, or have an amazing partner in their attorney who will ask them about charitable intent and stewardship. And I just love this partner because Natalie understands stewardship and what's entrusted to our care and how that looks for us as we plan for our lives. So why don't we do it? Why don't we make a will? Why don't we have plans? I don't know enough. There's no one to educate me, no one to encourage me, no one to ask me. I don't plan on dying. I'm gonna live forever, right? All of these things. Anybody relate? I don't ask for a show of hands yet. They're too complicated, right? Again, I don't know enough, but there's too much stuff to navigate and get through. I don't want to die. I don't want to talk about it. It's not even that I don't plan on dying. I want to avoid that subject altogether. And again, I would just encourage us as Christians, we've got the best death in the world to witness to in Jesus and his resurrection and his making all things new again for our lives. We can't talk about death. This is us, right? This is our time as examples to our community. I don't have anything. I don't have enough to give. I don't have enough to think about. It's not a priority. I'm young. I'm healthy. I'm 30. I'm 40. I don't have a problem, right? Too busy. There's just too much on my plate. I got kids. I got retirement to think about. I'm looking for a new house. I'm moving. I'm changing jobs. Those things we're going to talk about in a minute. I don't have time for this. So all of these things are reasons that we don't make plans. These people that we talk to, they're expensive. I don't know what to expect from them, right? And so why don't we include gifts in our plans? Again, it's kind of some of the same reasons. If I make a gift to ministry or to charity, my kids aren't going to get anything. No one ever asked me. I come from a fundraising background, and it's kind of the same concept when you're asking for a gift for a ministry. Oftentimes we realize that people just aren't asked, and that's why they don't give. It's the same thing with our charities and our ministries. A lot of times we don't ask, and so therefore it's not top of mind for us when we make those plans. And I don't know how to include a gift. So that's where I kind of come in. Pastor introed a little bit to my role, and my role is really here for you. The congregation pays the foundation for me to be here. And there's no cost then to anything that I can assist you with. And these are the things that I can assist you with. I can help you organize your blessings. I can be your encourager to get your will created. I won't help you create the will. Somebody else will do that with you, but I will encourage you. I will light fires. I will push you, prod you, pull you. Whatever you tell me needs to be my role for you to help you get that done, I will do that. And then I will help you figure out how we can find pathways to take care of your blessings now so that you can bless ministry and family that you care about later. And so what I do is these things. So we help you find the best asset with the best method, the best gift for the best time, to make that a whole part of your process when you meet with your estate planner, your attorney, your financial planner, what that looks like. And your team includes attorneys, includes me, your insurance advisor, your investment person, and certainly your family members. And I also can't stress that enough. As much as it's amazing if you can get this done, it's even better if you can have a conversation with your brother, your sister, your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, and have them be a part of that process. Have them understand where your heart is, your love for Jesus, that this is important to you and why it's important to you, because I want to be able to bless all of these places where God has given me this rich part of my life, including my family. And this is why we've made the decisions that we have. And I just have to encourage you to do that. It's so important. If you haven't started the conversation about death as a parent with your kids, start it. All I can say is start it. It's just that important. Estate plan, more than just a will, and who needs one? Everyone. And we really believe that everyone does need that. You may not have great assets at 30, and you'll have more assets at 70, but in the middle, there still needs to be a plan in place. And here's Natalie.
So if you don't have an estate plan, the state of Illinois has one for you. We've got some examples here to sort of illustrate that point. Raise your hand if you're one of my couples I gave the cards and the play money to. Okay, so back here, all right, so what are your two jobs?
Police officer.
Who's the police officer? You are. I thought she was gonna be. No? All right.
No, I'm
So you're the singer. Okay, all right. And on your cards, what does it say that your salary is? $50,000 for the police officer for annual salary, and the singer? Oh, okay. You must be good. You must have regular gigs. And then the amount of wealth that you've amassed. Okay, they lived a great life. All right, so they're like trying to die at zero. That's okay. All right. So what's the amount of wealth you've amassed there? So that's your play money.
Oh, 10,000.
All right, so 20,000 together. All right. Most of their assets maybe aren't liquid. That's their liquid money. Okay. All right, what's my next couple? What do we have here? What are your careers?
Mine is a doctor.
Doctor, all right.
Salary,
Yeah, what's your salary?
130,000.
Oh, that's not high enough for a doctor, is it? All right, maybe you give discounts. Lots of pro bono, lots of mission work. Doctors Without Borders. And what's your job?
Actor.
Oh, you're an actor. Well, how much are you paid?
100,000.
A year, okay. Regular gigs, not just commercials. All right, and what have you amassed here? What's your play money, tell us, for your liquid money?
$1 million.
$1 million, okay, because you're each, okay, wonderful. All right, we have two more couples. Where's my next couple? Back here.
Athlete.
Athlete, what do you make?
50,000.
50,000, okay.
I'm a race car driver.
Race car driver,
Yes.
that's dangerous.
You got that.
Oh my goodness. And what do you make a year?
60K.
60K, all right. And what is the wealth that you've amassed in your liquid assets?
100.
100 together or 100 each?
100 together.
Okay, all right. And what about Chef Jeff?
Well, I'm a dancer.
Oh, you're the dancer. Okay, so Leanie's the chef. She does make good grilled cheese. That's true. This is my stepdad. And what do you make? I'm sorry. 50? And what does the chef make?
50.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so you've got a variety of careers, right? Probably a variety of ages and a variety of sort of wealth amounts. So it doesn't matter what you do, who you are, or how much money you have. If you die in Illinois without a will or a trust, so if you haven't decided what your estate planning is, all of our couples, go ahead and hold your play money up. All right, pretend that you've got kids, you probably do, but even if you don't, pretend you've got kids and they're sitting next to you. Now, just give me these imaginary kids that are next to you, give them one of those, the set of play money, right, which would be about half of your wealth. All right, the other half you get to keep. Okay, so in the state of Illinois, when one spouse dies, you only get to keep, as the surviving spouse, half of your wealth, and the other half goes to your kids equally. No matter how old they are, no matter how young they are, no matter how much they need it or don't need it, or how much you like them or don't like them. Okay, so that's just one example. We've got something in Illinois called the probate statute, and it's got basically default rules. I don't know why that's the rule, but that's the law. Do you have a question?
Yes, because what about when you put somebody on as a beneficiary on your 401k or?
Yep, so she asked,
Beneficiary.
yeah, she's asking about beneficiaries, right? Well, do I really need to go see one of those lawyers and go through and meet with them, and they're expensive and they might charge me hourly? We don't charge hourly for estate plans because no one would ever be able to afford them. So most attorneys, our office included, you'll have a flat fee for your estate plan, and really it's a package because it's a set of documents. So I make the expensive lawyer joke, and then I try not to be the punchline, I guess is what you'd say. So again, asking about beneficiaries. That works until it doesn't. If anyone has ever played Jenga, right? So you've got the stacked game, or if you haven't played Jenga, the sort of traditional metaphor, if you will, the house of cards, right? Everything is stacked perfectly. So the beneficiary designation works, except that people don't die in order, right? What if the people that you've named died before you? Now you've created a probate issue because there's no place for your stuff to go. So the beneficiary designation works, but it works best in tandem with an estate plan. So for example, we'll get into trust more next week, but if you've got a trust, that's gonna be like your contingent fallback beneficiary. So especially for like IRAs or life insurance, I like to name the spouse first, because for life insurance, that's quick money. For the IRAs, you've got that rollover designation, right? So the spouse first, but then you want that second beneficiary, or that backup one, that contingent one, you want that to be your trust. Because that's gonna have all the backup rules for when people don't die in the order that we think they should, or that we want them to, right? So we've gotta have a soft place for everything to land. So yes, beneficiary designations work as a tool, but they don't work instead of. You can try to do it, but then I call that Band-Aid estate planning, and it works about as well as a Band-Aid. You know, after day 2, it's like, nope, that just came off in the shower. Yes?
Well, we named a contingent too.
For a person.
Yes, we named a contingent if the spouse was to die, we already named a contingent on the plan itself.
But what if they die before you as well? So that's why you want to have a trust or will, because in that document, what your lawyer has done is named your immediate beneficiary, right? Most people, they choose, right? They don't want that state of Illinois estate plan. They want everything, right? So with that play money, you'd be handing all that money to your surviving spouse. And then when the last spouse dies, maybe to the kids equally, or anything special we need to do there, right? So you want to be careful, because so in your trust or in your will, what your attorney will do is, okay, what about if we get beyond that group of people, right? You know, heaven forbid, there's something tragic and we've got a few more people that predecease us, you know, than we think that they should, that any one person can handle, frankly, but, you know, God sees us through it. Your trust or your will is going to have like backups to the backups to the backups to, okay, if this person predeceases you, where do you want your wealth to go? Okay, if this person predeceases you, and we do a long line of, until we get to that truly contingent provision, and then we still put some people or some charities or organizations in there as a backup, so that it doesn't go to the state of Illinois. Because when you start running out of people, or you haven't planned in your estate for backups to the backups to the backups, it can end up with the state of Illinois in that unclaimed property division, which doesn't benefit anybody. All right. So Christian estate planning priorities, right? We're not just worried about our wealth and, you know, who dies with the most in their fist at the end, right? That's not what we're doing. We're talking about good stewardship to take care of our families and our church and our community long after we're gone. Estate planning toolbox. People say, well, what is an estate plan? Well, it's more than just a will. The most traditional estate plan you're going to see are where you're actually going to have pour-over wills. These are a backup plan, just in case you don't do that step 2 with your trust, which is titling everything in trust. So even if you have a trust as your foundation, you still have wills as a backup plan. They're called pour-over wills. Just imagine pouring, you know, water or something into a glass. It says, here's my name, here's who I'm related to, now look at my trust for the rules. And then the trust is gonna be your foundational document. That's gonna be kind of the meat of your estate plan. That's gonna say, where does stuff go when I pass? And if the people that I'm very sure I'm gonna outlive, if they die before me, who are my backup beneficiaries? And then who are the backups to those backups? And your attorney can take you through that. So those, number 1 and number 2, those are documents for when you're dead. Number 3 and number 4, those are your powers of attorney. Those are documents for during your life, convenience documents. Power of attorney for property is someone who can sign your name, deposit checks, pay bills, take taxes to the tax guy, right? They can step into your shoes for your stuff and help you. Power of attorney for healthcare, that's going to be medical decisions, right? So if you're in that unfortunate position where you can't make decisions for yourself because of a medical issue, your power of attorney agent, where you put your wishes in that form, right? So if I'm in an end of life decision, and you have to decide whether to quote unquote pull the plug, what types of priorities do I want you to think about when you're deciding, okay, do they want to stay on this life support, or is it time to let them go in peace? So again, it's all planning, right? We got to plan for the worst, hope for the best, but we got to be well planned up. So we just talked about that, more than just a will. So many people call my office and say, how much for just a will? And it's like, you're asking the wrong question. You need more than just a will. So I just went through quickly power of attorney for healthcare. Another thing that's really important to think about with these powers of attorney, they're not guardianships. Okay, that's why I have the shoes up there. Someone is stepping into your shoes, but then they can step or be pushed right back out. And you never leave your shoes. So this is just somebody who can assist you. It's not like a guardianship where we're going to court, we're having you declared incompetent, and now someone else is in charge. Okay, this is just a document to assist you. Now, you definitely want to have a lot of trust in these people, right? Because for all intents and purposes, they are you, and they have a lot of power to do the things. So choose your agents carefully, but you don't leave. You still have your own agency in these situations. So next week, we're going to talk about wills and trusts, whether you want wills as the foundation for your estate plan or you want a trust. You don't need to or have to be a millionaire to have a trust. Trusts are for everyone who owns their own home. If you don't own your own home, if you rent or you've got a manufactured home, you can get away with just doing wills instead of a trust, because you're not going to trigger probate in that instance because of the makeup of your assets. But apart from that one exception, trusts are generally a good fit for everyone, just sometimes for different reasons. So without having anything, right? We talked about how half your wealth will go to your spouse, half your wealth will go to your kids equally, and you definitely would have to probate, right, to get that going where it needs to go. This is a misconception sometimes. People think, oh, well, I have a will, so now I'm going to avoid that probate question. Not the case. With wills, you still have to probate. Wills are better than nothing because you get to say where your stuff goes when you die, but you still have to go through the courts and have a judge with oversight to go ahead and do that. What is probate? Is it scary? Do we want to avoid it? I kind of do it all day, every day, so it's not so scary to me, but people pay me good money to do it. So your average probate case costs somewhere between $2,000 to $5,000, and that's like an uncontested one, just simply because it's a time-tested process, it's an old process, it's a formal process, but it's got a lot of hoops that you have to go through, a lot of paperwork. And of course, you know, us lawyers, we wrote the laws, so you can only go to a lawyer to open up a probate case. Only a lawyer can enter their appearance on behalf of the estate, and only a lawyer can draft up your probate petition and ask the judge, okay, may we submit this will to probate? And we do about a stack of paperwork about this thick. And then the judge says yes, and then you got to pay your lawyer to appear in court about 3 times to tell the judge everything's going fine. And you have to wait. You have to wait for those letters of office. So what are those? With a trust, you show a death certificate, your successor trustee, boom, can just start doing the things. It's self-authenticating document. With a will, you got your executor named in there, but they can't start doing the things. They don't have the power yet until they get those letters of office, which is just a piece of paper that says, great, you had a lawyer that drafted that probate petition, we admitted the will to probate, we've got the court case open, And now you've got the power, executor, to go do the things. So you'd be surprised that 2, 3, sometimes 4-week delay, whenever the judge gets around to signing that order, can cause a lot of grief and a lot of problems while you're already grieving, right? You don't want that delay in being able to pay for the funeral or, start just getting going, start doing the things. A probate case has to stay open for at least 6 months, whereas with a trust, with administration of your estate, you can do things as fast or as slow as you want to. So probate takes time and money, and we kind of want to save on both of those things. Yes, question?
Okay, you just explained all the things that the lawyer does. What if I'm going through probate, what's my role? What do I do to start all this, and how involved do I remain?
Right, so you can't. So we asked, well, you explained everything the lawyer does in probate. The client or the successor trustee, right, the person that, the executor for a will, he asked, what can I do? What can I do to get this process moving, or what's my role? To pay the lawyer money, because only a lawyer can do all these probate things. So your job is just, when the lawyer says paperwork's ready, you sign in front of a notary at the lawyer's office, and then you write the lawyer, the check, and you pay the court the filing fee of $300 or $400.
So my guy died.
Yep.
Go, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you have to go see an attorney and have an attorney enter their appearance, right, to represent the estate, to represent you, and then to draft the probate petition. That's this big long thing that's got all these exhibits and forms that says, here, Judge, we want to submit this will to probate so that the executor can go do the things. So what things are you going to go do, right? You have to have some role. So you're going to take those letters of office and you're going to, maybe liquidate that bank account, right, and put it into the estate account. And if you've got 4 beneficiaries, you're going to pay the lawyer, you're going to pay the accountant, you're going to pay all the taxes and fees, maybe at a closing to sell a house or something that the decedent owned. And then you're going to put that money in the estate account, and then you're going to split it 4 ways once all your expenses are paid. So that part's kind of common sense, right? It's like, what do I do with my normal stuff in my, the stuff I own during my life? Well, I pay my bills, I pay my expenses, and then whatever's left over, I get to spend. So same thing with an estate. You pay your expenses, you pay the taxes, whatever's left over. If the estate plan says, in equal shares to my kids, and there's 4 kids, adult kids at this time, we'll say, then you're gonna, if there's $40,000 left, they're each gonna get 10. So the executor does more of the practical, sort of getting the stuff where it needs to go. With a trust, you can just start doing that. All you have to do is show the death certificate. You simply don't have to go through the probate process. There's no court oversight. It can happen privately, quickly.
So all that selling of the real estate and all that kind of stuff, that waits until after the probate is all done.
After the probate is opened, and during the probate process, that 6 months, you would sell the house, you would marshal the assets, you would do all the things, but you just probably can't do a distribution until the 6 months is up, because you gotta wait for the claims period to expire. Because if you get a claim that comes in for $100,000, you're gonna be really sad that you already dispersed that 40. You're gonna be asking for it back so you can pay that claim. So we talked about the probate process a little bit. So what goes through probate? You can skip probate if you do the beneficiary designation, but you want to be careful with that, because if you name your beneficiaries and then they're not alive at your death, well, now we have to probate to figure out where does it go now. So there are some shortcuts, but the best thing to do is an estate plan. So with your assets for a married couple, a lot of times people will say, okay, well, we've got a set of wills. The house is in both of our names. And for my life insurance, I've named, my spouse is a beneficiary, my kids as backups. I'm good, right? You don't have to probate typically at the first death. So even if you do wills and you decide, I'm fine with the probate process, Natalie's gonna do the heavy lifting anyway, so it'll be fine. At the first death, you don't have to probate, because if you own things together, as a married couple, especially if your names together is with joint tenancy, that's got the right of survivorship. So at the first death, if both of your names are on something, the other person just automatically owns it 100%. It's at the second death where we've got assets in your individual name, those are the things we have to probate. So really it's not which type of assets get probated, it's how are they titled, and that's what's gonna cause, or not cause, house probate. So it's not like a house gets probated and a checking account doesn't, right? It's not asset specific, it's how you title things. Hand it over to Dionne. We're going to talk about bequests and how we give to others, maybe outside of our family, right? So how can we be the living, breathing example of good stewardship of our assets? We want to provide for our kids and we want to provide for everyone, but how can we give to the church and to our community and support programs that were important to us during our life after our death? Is it still me? Okay.
I think you still got a few.
Because I'm supposed to be the smartest person in the room and give you all the definitions of the things, so here we go. I obviously don't have it memorized, so we have it up there. So what is a bequest, right? So that's any time you're going to be giving things, such as stocks, bonds, even your jewelry, your cash, to individuals or organizations, right? Now, you could do this through the provisions in a will. You could do this through a trust. You could do this through beneficiary designation. Even though I don't love naming individuals as beneficiaries, sometimes it really makes sense, especially with the tax consequences, like for an IRA, to name your church or charitable organization as a beneficiary. So, and then we just kind of went through the examples of bequests. So you can do it lots of different ways. And you want to think, I keep talking about trust, which we're going to get into next week, but any document or tool kind of in your arsenal there for your estate planning, you want to think about them like tools, right? So assets are different in that I might title my house in trust, but for my life insurance, I may name my spouse as the primary and maybe my trust as a backup. And then maybe for my IRA, I'm just going to name the church as a beneficiary. So you want to think about all these different documents, especially your trust, not as like a blanket sort of coverall. You want to use them for the job that they're best at, right? Like you're going to use a hammer to hammer a nail. You're not going to use it to spread peanut butter on your bread. It's all tools. Not one's better than another. They just have different uses where they're best used. Yeah. There's you. So what's a Christian estate plan? Oh, sure. I can just cue you, right?
So we just talk about that as a whole process, as Natalie talked about all the different tools to use. One of the things, or the thing my role is to help you figure out what tools are going to be best be used for what portion of your estate. And that's something that I can assist you with. Natalie will get into the nits and grits, but I will actually sit down with you and we would go through your assets and your liabilities, what policies you have, what are your IRAs or your 401ks, and how might those look? So we actually illustrate those for you so that you can see what it looks like for tax implications, for instance. If you were to give nothing right now to charity or ministry, or what does your current estate plan look like with no plan? And so that's something we can do together. So part of the process is just looking at all of that, all of our family needs. What do we love? Aside from the people that we love, do we love certain ministries or charities or mission work? Where do we spend our time? Is it with gardening or going on mission trips? What does that look like? So we really want to take care of ourselves as whole people, I think. That's the other thing. You know, God makes us as whole people. So we want to make sure we're treating ourselves as whole people with rich lives. And so what do we look like? So our lifetime plan for giving, and that's what we call that as a foundation, is we look through a will with naming guardians to a minor's trust. We talk about revocable living trusts with pour-over wills to make sure that we have those in place. Again, I don't do that. You need a professional in your life to help you with that. But I make sure that we have those boxes checked. Because for me in my life, I need check boxes and I need to-do lists. And so when I have that, and even better yet, I have a supportive person to help me check those boxes, we can check the boxes for durable power of attorney, for financial, and for health care. We can review all the ownership. What do beneficiary designations look like? I can be the person that kind of encourages you to make sure that you know you printed out your beneficiary form or that you know how to access it for your bank accounts. We're gonna give you a tracking form so that together we can check all those boxes as part of this process and get it done. And then the last piece, we call it a family blessing. And I think this is important too. So when I talk about having those conversations with your kids or your grandkids, doing this process for us sometimes, or in many cases, always, right, is the last time that we get to profess our faith publicly. So I'm in heaven already, but the last thing that I can leave on earth is this beautiful profession of my love for my kids, my church, my Jesus, and why that's been important for me in my life. And so to have this opportunity to provide a family blessing, to provide some language in my will, so we have Christian preambles that I can provide you so that you can start working on. When we talk about last will and testament, that's the testament part, right? We get to testify to our faith. We get to do this one more time for the people that we love. And so we talk about that. We can do these things at the foundation. We can help you with bequests and charitable trusts and donor advice funds. Certainly, if you wanted a family endowment, what does that look like? And gift annuities, we can help you with all of those actual vehicles as well, if those are ones that suit you and your situation best. That's something that we can do at the foundation. So we're going to encourage you to write a statement of faith, number one. We're going to encourage you to create a gift plan that leads to family and charity, to ministry. And that's where I come in. That's my process. And so my outcome, my desire for everyone here is that we complete that process, that we leave a legacy for faith, that we bless others in our lives. We bless the ministries and charities that we love. And ultimately, that we accomplish the Great Commission, that people can see Jesus through us, and that we can build a kingdom for his work here on earth. Hey, look at that. End slide with enough time for questions. And I know you have some, because Natalie's here. Go ahead.
I think you made somebody understand what
The church is already taking care of my contract with the foundation. So no one in this congregation pays me or the foundation directly anything. So when I sit down with you, essentially we call it a 4-step process. You do a survey. You can do that online or in print. It will probably take you together, if there's 2 of you, a couple in the family, because we also talk about your stewardship. What do you love? What are your priorities? It probably will take you about an hour to do that together. Then we meet together, we go through that. I ask you some questions, kind of just learn who you are, what makes you tick, what you love, what do you love to do with your spare time. From there, I go back and I go through some design, we call it. And so that's where I do these illustrations for you. And then we come back, we meet again a second time. I share with you the illustrations and kind of some of the best realization where I think this might make most sense for you, where to leave some of your bequests and assets depending on tax liabilities and some of those kinds of things. From there, you decide which direction we want to go. I go back. For many of us, it's about making a charitable trust, for instance. So our lawyers and attorneys on staff, of which we have an amazing staff of attorneys and trust advisors, would work on creating that trust, creating those documents. And then the last time we would approve that together. We could meet in person to look through that, make any changes. Oftentimes we can do that by email. And then the last time we meet with your attorney, and we sit in the attorney's office and sign that document together, as well as make sure all of your wills and your pour-over trust, your living trust, is ready to be signed. So we would make sure those documents are signed at the same time. And then usually I would ask for a little extra time in the attorney's conference room so that we can go through all of your bequest designations. So together, I would sit there and encourage you. We would get online to your bank accounts because you have all those done already. You know where everything is. You know your insurance forms. So if anything needed to be named immediately into the trust, we would take care of that together in the next hour or however that long it takes to make sure those things get done. So we can check those final boxes so that by the time we all leave, It's done, it's all tied up.
The meter's not running, I won't charge you.
And I love Natalie's statement that no matter what we put on our beneficiary designation, things don't happen in order. Because I know for reality, God's plans are not mine. And sometimes He has different intent for our lives. And so I think as much as we think we have our ducks in a row, sometimes God has different things in mind.
And our office doesn't charge either for you to sit down and do your consultation. And during that consultation, you'll see Dionne first and go through step kind of 1 and 2 like she described. And then we would all get together and we sit down and we look, and I've got about kind of boiled down to about 6 different packages, I call them. And then we decide which package is right for you and your family. And then there's a flat fee associated with that package. The church hasn't already taken care of your contract with me like it has with Dionne, but there's no charge for sitting down and talking and for me making my recommendation. And then you know exactly what's in front of you, what work I need to do, and exactly how much it'll cost. And oftentimes our clients do kind of their own payment plan. We don't charge interest or anything like that. People put a little bit of money down to get us started, right? You gotta have some skin in the game, so a small retainer. We get started drafting, and then when you come back to sign, and Dionne is more than welcome to come with you, and that's very helpful. And it sounds like she'll help you with funding your trust too, which is step 2, and like the homework I usually give my clients. So that's awesome that you're going to do their homework for them. And then we send a statement out every 30 days if you have a balance with the law firm, and you can pay as much or as little on that statement as you'd like. So we make it affordable for you. Oh, okay. So real quick, Dionne wanted me to just touch on guardianship. A lot of times people delay coming to me because they're like, oh, I don't want to face that question. I don't even want to think about it. And my husband and I, we disagree as to who would be the guardian of our kids, right? If in the event we pass away at this very young age that we're at right now. And so if you don't name guardians, you kind of, it can get really messy and ugly. There's a lot of fighting usually in the family because everyone, usually kind of wants to help or no one feels like, well, gosh, I wasn't selected, so maybe I'm not the right person for the job. So kind of like for your powers of attorney for property and healthcare, where in the event that happens where you need to use those forms and you've made your wishes kind of known to your agent, you can do that in your will or your pour-over will if you're doing a trust for your estate plan, where you say, I would want it to be these people in this order. And the biggest thing that I think is helpful too is to add a little bit of extra language where, like for example, I would want our kids to be with a couple, right? So I might name my sister Andrea and her husband Greg, but I would say, Greg and Andrea, or Dr. and Pastor Giamalva, whatever the proper way is to say it. So I would name the 2 of them, and then I would say, comma, provided they are both still living and married to each other, right? Then I may have another couple as my backup if those 2 sort of variables aren't met. And I might, what's your husband's name? Howard. So I might say, he's got a British accent, so I won't make that be cool too. My kids to get a little culture. So then my backup couple, right, might be Howard and Dionne Jones, right? Provided they are both still living and married to each other. So there are many ways that you can do that, to have a network of people and backups to take care of your kids. And it's important to do it because if you don't know, you got a lot of open kind of public discussions in court that are not so pretty. So. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the judge will basically decide who gets your kids. So make a plan.
Well, thank you both for opening this conversation up here. So we will continue next weekend with part 2. So please come back and join us for that. And also next weekend, as a reminder, we have our fall congregational meeting, which is happening. It'll be in the sanctuary at 1 p.m. next Sunday. So that'll be we'll have a Zoom webinar link that goes out to everybody for that as well. So it won't be live streamed like we're seeing it now. But thank you both for starting us off. And we'll see you all around. Go in peace. Pretty good.
Yeah, she goes.